Infertile.
Infertile.
Infertile couples.
Infertility.
Infertility.
There are many possible causes of infertility in women.
Infertility treatments. Infest.
Infest.
The kitchen was infested with cockroaches.
Shark-infested waters. An area infested with holiday homes.
Infidel.
Infidel.
Infidelity.
Infidelity.
Marital infidelity.
Infield.
Infield.
Infighting.
Infighting.
Political infighting.
Infill.
Infill.
Infill panels. Infill developments.
Infiltrate.
Infiltrate.
Police attempts to infiltrate neo-Nazi groups were largely unsuccessful.
Rebel forces have been infiltrating into the country.
They repeatedly tried to infiltrate assassins into the palace. They repeatedly tried to infiltrate assassins into the palace. Commercialism has been infiltrating universities for the past decade. Infinite.
Infinite.
A woman of infinite patience.
There was an infinite variety of drinks to choose from.
The universe is infinite.
Infinitely.
Infinitely.
This school is infinitely better than the last one I went to.
Someone with infinitely more experience. Infinitesimal.
Infinitesimal.
Infinitesimal changes in temperature.
Infinitesimally small.
Infinitive.
Infinitive.
Infinitude.
Infinitude.
The vast infinitude of space. Infinity.
Infinity.
The infinity of space.
In the equation below, as e goes to 0, n approaches infinity.
There is an infinity of possible solutions.
Infinity pool. Infinity pool.
Infirm.
Infirm.
Her grandmother is elderly and infirm.
The hotel is on a hill, which is not ideal for the infirm. Infirmary.
Infirmary.
Infirmity.
Infirmity.
In flagrante. In flagrante.
In flagrante.
They were caught in flagrante by Donna's husband.
Inflame.
Inflame.
The shooting inflamed ethnic tensions.
Inflamed.
An inflamed eye.
Inflammable.
Inflammable.
Petrol is highly inflammable.
Inflammable language.
Inflammation.
Inflammation.
Inflammation of the colon. Inflammatory.
Inflammatory.
Inflammatory remarks.
Inflammatory bowel disease.
Inflatable.
Inflatable.
An inflatable mattress.
Inflate.
Inflate.
It took us half an hour to inflate the dinghy.
Her life jacket failed to inflate.
The success further inflated his self-confidence.
The numbers of people involved have been grossly inflated by the media. The numbers of people involved have been grossly inflated by the media. Hotels often inflate prices at particular times of the year.
Costs were inflating.
Inflated. Inflated.
Company directors on grossly inflated salaries. Company directors on grossly inflated salaries.
He has a very inflated opinion of himself.
Inflation.
Inflation.
Inflation is now at over 16%.
Inflationary.
Inflationary.
Inflationary pressures in the economy.
A new round of wage increases could trigger an inflationary spiral. A new round of wage increases could trigger an inflationary spiral.
Inflect.
Inflect.
Inflected.
Inflected.
Inflection.
Inflection.
Inflexible.
Inflexible.
Inflexible attitudes towards change.
This approach is too inflexible and too costly.
Inflection.
Inflection.
Inflict. Inflict.
Inflict.
The strikes inflicted serious damage on the economy.
Detectives warned that the men could inflict serious injury. Was it really fair to her friends to inflict her nephew on them? Was it really fair to her friends to inflict her nephew on them? Was it really fair to her friends to inflict her nephew on them?
The deliberate infliction of pain. The deliberate infliction of pain.
In-flight.
In-flight.
In-flight entertainment.
Inflow.
Inflow.
An inflow of funds from abroad.
Influence.
Influence.
As a scientist, his influence was immense. As a scientist, his influence was immense.
The union's influence over local politics. The union's influence over local politics.
Gail's mother said I was a bad influence on her daughter.
For centuries, the country remained untouched by outside influences. Marx was strongly influenced by the historian Niebuhr.
Several factors are likely to influence this decision. What influenced you to take up nursing?
Influenza.
Influenza.
Influx.
Influx.
A sudden influx of cash.
A large influx of tourists in the summer.
Info.
Info.
Infocom. Infocom. Intermediary. Infomediary.
Infomercial.
Infomercial.
Inform.
Inform.
They decided to inform the police.
Please inform us of any change of address as soon as possible.
We regret to inform you that your application has been rejected.
Her experience as a refugee informs the content of her latest novel. Her experience as a refugee informs the content of her latest novel.
He denied that he'd ever informed on his neighbours. He denied that he'd ever informed on his neighbours.
Informal.
Informal.
The atmosphere at work is fairly informal.
The two groups met for informal talks.
Informant.
Informant.
One of the witnesses was a paid informant for the FBI.
Information.
Information.
I need more information.
We have received information that Grant may have left the country.
The book contains information about a wide variety of subjects.
My information is that Gary wants to stay with the club.
I'm attaching a copy of the report for your information.
For your information, I've worked as a journalist for 6 years.
I was really ill at the weekend. I had to stay on the toilet all day. Too much information.
Information center.
Information center.
Information overload.
Information overload.
The greater the amount of data, the greater the risk of information overload.
Information retrieval.
Information retrieval.
Information science.
Information science.
Information superhighway.
Information superhighway.
Information technology.
Information technology.
Information theory.
Information theory.
Informative.
Informative.
An informative and entertaining book.
Informed.
Informed. Informed sources said it was likely that the president would make a televised statement.
I became reasonably well informed about the subject. I became reasonably well informed about the subject.
Good information is essential if people are to make informed choices about services. Good information is essential if people are to make informed choices about services. Please keep me fully informed of any developments. Please keep me fully informed of any developments.
Informer.
Informer.
Infotainment.
Infotainment.
Infowar. Infowar.
Infra.
Infra.
The infrared end of the spectrum.
Infraction.
Infraction.
Minor infractions of the rules.
Infrared.
Infrared.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Some countries lack a suitable economic infrastructure. A $65 billion investment package in education, healthcare, and infrastructure.
Infrequent.
Infrequent.
They would make infrequent visits to the house.
Infrequently.
Infrequently.
Jeremy does play cricket, but very infrequently.
The censors changed some names and dialogue and not infrequently banned controversial films.
Infringe.
Infringe.
A backup copy of a computer program does not infringe copyright.
The infringement of human rights.
Some students argued that the rule infringed on their right to free speech.
Infuriate.
Infuriate.
Her actions infuriated her mother. It infuriated him that Beth was with another man.
Infuriating.
Infuriating.
The infuriating thing is that he is always right. An infuriatingly tricky crossword puzzle. Infuse.
Infuse.
Her books are infused with humour and wisdom.
These new designers are infusing fresh interest into the New York fashion scene.
Infusion.
Infusion.
Further education badly needs the infusion of more resources. Intravenous infusions of cardiac drugs.
Ing.
Ing.
They're dancing.
To go dancing.
A dancing bear. She hates swimming.
No parking.
To hold a meeting.
A beautiful painting.
A silk lining.
10 meters of curtaining.
In-game.
In-game. In-game advertisements. In-game behavior.
Ingenious.
Ingenious.
Many fish have ingenious ways of protecting their eggs from predators.
An ingenious device.
Ingenue.
Ingenue.
Ingenuity.
Ingenuity.
Ingenuous.
Ingenuous.
Ingest.
Ingest.
Inglenook.
Inglenook.
Inglorious.
Inglorious.
An inglorious defeat.
Ingot.
Ingot.
Ingrained.
Ingrained.
The idea of doing our duty is deeply ingrained in most people.
Ingrate.
Ingrate.
Ingratiate.
Ingratiate.
His policy is to ingratiate himself with anyone who might be useful to him.
Ingratiating.
Ingratiating.
An ingratiating smile.
Ingratitude.
Ingratitude.
I've never seen such ingratitude.
Ingredient.
Ingredient.
Combine all the ingredients in a large bowl.
The food is home cooked using fresh ingredients.
John has all the ingredients of a great player. Investment in new product development is an essential ingredient of corporate success.
Acetic acid is the chief active ingredient in vinegar.
Ingress.
Ingress.
Ingroup.
Ingroup.
Ingrowing.
Ingrowing.
Inhabit.
Inhabit.
The woods are inhabited by many wild animals.
Inhabited islands. Inhabitant.
Inhabitant.
A city of 6 million inhabitants.
Inhalant.
Inhalant.
Inhale.
Inhale.
It's dangerous to inhale ammonia fumes. Myra lit another cigarette and inhaled deeply.
One man was treated for smoke inhalation.
Inhaler.
Inhaler.
Inhere.
Inhere.
Inherent.
Inherent.
I'm afraid the problems you mention are inherent in the system. Every business has its own inherent risks.
Firefighting is an inherently dangerous occupation.
Inherit.
Inherit.
He inherited a fortune from his grandmother.
Inherited wealth. The present government inherited a closed, state-dominated economy.
Mr. Grass inherited his work ethic from his father.
I inherited my mother's curly hair. We inherited the furniture from the previous tenants.
Inheritance.
Inheritance.
Lucinda has to fight for her life and her inheritance in this gripping novel.
Our genetic inheritance cannot be changed.
Ideas that have become part of our cultural inheritance.
Inheritance tax.
Inheritance tax.
Inheritor.
Inheritor.
These writers are inheritors of his work.
Inhibit.
Inhibit.
An unhappy family life may inhibit children's learning.
Recording the meeting may inhibit people from expressing their real views.
Inhibited.
Inhibited.
Many people are inhibited about discussing sexual matters.
Inhibition.
Inhibition.
She had no inhibitions about saying what she felt.
People tend to lose their inhibitions when they've drunk a lot of alcohol.
A marked inhibition of cell growth. Inhospitable.
Inhospitable.
An inhospitable climate.
He trekked across some of the most inhospitable terrain in the world.
Some governments are inhospitable to aid workers. In-house.
In-house.
We have an in-house training unit. The keyboarding is done in-house.
Inhuman.
Inhuman.
The refugees had suffered degrading and inhuman treatment. The refugees had suffered degrading and inhuman treatment.
A strange inhuman sound.
Inhumane.
Inhumane.
The inhumane treatment of political prisoners. I was shocked by the inhumane conditions.
Inhumanity.
Inhumanity.
The inhumanity of some political systems.
Inimical.
Inimical.
A cold, inimical climate.
Conditions inimical to development. Inimitable.
Inimitable.
The inimitable Billie Holiday.
He entertained us in his own inimitable style. He entertained us in his own inimitable style.
Inimical.
Inimitable.
Iniquitous.
Iniquitous.
An iniquitous system of taxation.
Iniquity.
Iniquity.
He went on and on about the iniquities of bourgeois oppression. He went on and on about the iniquities of bourgeois oppression.
They were trying to protect their son from iniquity.
Initial.
Initial.
An initial investment of £5,000.
The initial stages of the disease.
The initial response has been encouraging.
Can I have your initial, Mr. Davies? It's G, Mr. G. Davies.
His initials are DPH. They stand for David Perry Hallworth. The two countries have initialed a new defence cooperation agreement.
Initially.
Initially.
Stan initially wanted to go to medical school.
Initially, I thought I would only stay there a year.
Initiate.
Initiate.
They have decided to initiate legal proceedings against the newspaper.
Intellectuals have initiated a debate on terrorism.
Those kids were initiated into heroin use at a young age. At the age of 13, the boys in the tribe are initiated into manhood. Initiation.
Initiation.
The club has an initiation ceremony for new members. Initiation rituals for young boys at puberty.
Rites of initiation into their religion.
The initiation of criminal proceedings.
Initiative.
Initiative.
I wish my son would show more initiative.
Don't keep asking me for advice. Use your initiative.
Lieutenant Carlos was not obeying orders. He acted on his own initiative.
A government initiative to help exporters. An education initiative.
A new initiative for peace in the Middle East.
Why don't you take the initiative and ask him out?
Politicians need to seize the initiative from the terrorists.
The government must not lose the initiative in the fight against terrorism.
Initiator.
Initiator.
The initiator of the proposal.
Injection. Inject.
Inject. Inject.
The drug is injected directly into the base of the spine.
I have to inject myself with insulin.
Traditional handbag makers are injecting more fun into their designs.
A market building can inject new life into an area.
They need to inject more money into sports facilities.
Inject. Inject. Injection.
Injection.
The nurse gave me a tetanus injection. An injection of insulin.
The children hate having injections.
The only sure treatment is antibiotics, preferably by injection. The only sure treatment is antibiotics, preferably by injection.
A massive injection of public funds.
Our local football club may fold unless it gets a cash injection.
A fuel injection system.
Injection molding. Injection molding. Injection molded fittings.
In joke.
In joke.
Injudicious.
Injudicious.
He has apologized for his injudicious remarks.
Injunction.
Injunction.
The family is seeking an injunction against the book's publication.
The judge refused to grant an injunction.
They failed to obtain an injunction.
Injure.
Injure.
Angus injured his leg playing rugby. 2 people have been critically injured in an accident.
Injured.
Injured.
An injured bird.
Chelsea have 3 injured players. Grandpa was badly injured in the war. The car accident left him seriously injured.
Many of the injured are still in a serious condition.
Injurious.
Injurious.
Smoking is injurious to health. Injury.
Injury.
She was taken to hospital with serious head injuries.
The driver of the truck suffered injuries to his legs and arms.
Beckham has missed several games through injury. Beckham has missed several games through injury.
He's a lawyer who specializes in personal injury claims.
He says that the allegations caused serious injury to his reputation.
Injury time.
Injury time.
Injustice.
Injustice.
The injustice of slavery.
Innumerable injustices against the black population.
The movie deals with injustices suffered by Native Americans. The movie deals with injustices suffered by Native Americans.
He had developed a deep sense of social injustice.
To say that you are a poor cook is to do yourself an injustice.
Ink.
Ink.
Please write in black ink.
The 2 companies have inked a deal.
Inkjet printer.
Inkjet printer.
Inkling.
Inkling.
I had an inkling that she was pregnant.
She had absolutely no inkling of what was going on.
Inkpad.
Inkpad.
Inkwell.
Inkwell.
Inky.
Inky.
I stared out into the inky blackness of the night. Inky fingers.
Inlaid.
Inlaid.
A wooden jewellery box inlaid with ivory.
Inland.
Inland.
The largest area of inland water in the southeast.
The mountains are 5 miles inland.
We set off inland.
In-laws.
In-laws.
We have to spend Christmas with the in-laws.
Inlay.
Inlay.
A cedarwood casket with gold inlay. Inlet.
Inlet.
There are several sheltered inlets along the coast. A fuel inlet.
Inline skate.
Inline skate.
In loco parentis.
In loco parentis.
As a teacher, you should regard yourself as being in loco parentis. Inmate.
Inmate.
In memoriam.
In memoriam.
Inmost.
Inmost.
In his inmost heart, he knew he didn't love me.
Apparently, there are bats in the inmost caves.
In.
In.
We're staying at the Holiday Inn.
Innards.
Innards.
Innate.
Innate.
Children have an innate ability to learn language.
The innate conservatism of the farming community. The Army's innately conservative values.